Welcome to a new video from Excel Data Analysis Series PT for Pivot Tables, video PT04, Calculated Fields and Items. In this video, we are going to see how we can add a calculation or formulas inside the pivot table itself. And this video divided into two sections. First section is talking about calculated fields, and the second one will discuss the calculated items. If you want to download the Excel sheet so you can practice after watching the video, or even if you want to follow while watching, you can go down in the description. You will find the link. Please use it to download the Excel sheet. If you didn't watch the 6 episodes of the PT for Pivot Table series, please make sure to visit the playlist and watch all of them. This will help you to follow this video and the videos to come. So in our practical example today, we are going to start to talk about calculated fields. And as you can see, we have extraction from AAA Bike Shop. This is the daily sales. It is coming in 69,000 rows and 7 columns. The fields that we have, or the columns that we have, is the date, product name, category, quantity, price, the discount percentage, sales and discount value. And the first requirement is to calculate the net sales, and this is basically the subtraction between the sales and the discount value, so we can reach the net sales. But we want to do this inside the pivot table itself, not in the original data set. And to build the pivot table, I will select any cell inside the data range, and I'll use the keyboard shortcut Alt and V. It will open the creation of the pivot table dialog box. It will sense automatically the range. I can go to existing worksheet. I'm going to select L7 and I'm going to press or click on OK. It will create the pivot table. The first step is to give a meaningful name. Pivot table analyze on the left hand side, pivot table name. I will select and give a name like net sales and enter. And before building anything in the columns or in the rows, I'm going to start to calculate the new field of the net sales. So selecting any cell inside the pivot table analyze, in the calculation section, fields, items and sets, select calculated fields. It will open this dialog box. The first thing that I want to do is to give a name. So the name will be net sales. Tap, it will take you to the formula section, and you can notice here there is a list of all the fields that I have in my original data set. I can select anything from this list. I want to start with calculating the net sales. It will start with the sales, so I'm going to select the sales by the mouse. I have the insert button here, or I can just double click. Once I double click, it will come up here in the formula bar, and then I'm going to use a space and then minus and then space and discount value and OK. Once I did this, you can see here a calculated field created with the net sales. Now I can start to build my report. I can put some columns and some rows. So I will start with the category. I'll put it down here in the rows. I can take the dates and put it over the category. It will give me the days. I can group this. I can go to pivot table analyze, group fields. I can group by month. Okay. Even if you take category over the date, you can have here the monthly sales for each category. The formula is working very good, and this is the beauty of the calculated fields. You can pivot your calculation. You can use it in all the dimensions. Even if I take out the categories, put it in the columns, you can have a very nice report with all your months, all your categories, and the subtotals are working perfectly, and the grand totals working perfectly. In the second example, now after calculating the net sales in this pivot table, I want to calculate the commission, and the commission, it will be a simple calculation. We need to multiply the net sales by a fixed percentage, which is 3%. So I'm going to create another pivot table. I'll go back to the original data set. I'll select any cell, Alt and V. It will open the dialog box. I'm going to select existing worksheet. I'm going to use this time T7 and click on OK. Pivot table created. Let's give it name like a commission and enter. And now I'm going to build my new calculation. However, if you notice here, you will find the net sales also in the new pivot table. We didn't copy it, we just created a new one. However, because it's built on the same data set, so the Excel automatically added the new calculated field in the new created pivot table. So now I'm going to build another calculation based on the net sales. Pivot table, analyze fields, items, and sets. I'm going to select calculated fields. I'm going to give it another name this time. This will be commission. Tap to go to the formula section. I'm going to select net sales. It appears now here. Net sales and asterisk to multiply. I'm going to multiply by 3 and %. Okay. It will create the calculation. Now you have the sales commission. Right click, number format. You can use currency because this is amounts, 0 decimal places, and okay. You can build another report similar to this one. So you have now the commission also calculated. Now let's try to do something different. I'm going to copy this report, this pivot table. I'll select the entire pivot table, Control C to copy, and I'll come here, Control V to paste. Let me take out the dates. I'll take the category only here, and let's try something different. And suppose that we don't have the total sales. We already have the total sales here, which is the multiplication of the quantity and price. Suppose that we don't have this column and we want to calculate the sales itself inside the pivot table. So I'm going back to my new or my copy of the pivot table, and let's start to do this. I'll take out even the commission, and I'll go to pivot table, analyze fields, items, and sets. Calculated field, this time let's call it total sales. Tap, I need the price, double click, asterisk to multiply, quantity, double click, and add, and okay. Look at this. This is a very, very big number. So what happened? Why this is not working? You know why? Because the aggregation, the sum aggregation is superseding or starts before the multiplication that I add in the formula, meaning that the pivot table starts to do the summation of the fields and then it's performing the multiplication. And if you want to prove this, you can go to the original data set, go down to the quantity column, at the end of the quantity column, use the shortcut Alt equal. It will create a sum function, enter, do the same for the price, and then try to multiply these two cells together, and let's see the outcome. This times this, and enter, and look at this. This is exactly what happened in the pivot table. This is the same amount that we saw in the newly created pivot table, and actually I don't know any other way to reverse this order. So the correct calculation is to first multiply and then do the summation, but in this case it will sum first and then do the multiplication, and I'm not aware of any way that you can change this order, and that's why this will not work with you. Multiply two fields to calculate something like the sales, it will not work inside the pivot table. And let's try the last one. I will copy this table again. I'll go here, and this time I'll try the divide. Multiplication is not working when I multiply two fields. I'll try to divide two fields, and let's try to calculate the average price after discount. So let's take out the total sales, it's not correct, and let's try to add another calculated fields from pivot table, analyze fields, items, and sets, calculated fields, and this one I'll call it average price. I need the net sales, which is after discount, and divide, and I'll select the quantity, and okay. Now it's added, and look at this, it seems like working perfectly. And let's try to do something to make sure that it's working perfectly. Let's take the net sales, I'll put it here, I'll take also the quantity, I'll put it in between, and let's try to perform the calculation ourselves. So I'll take the net sales equals net sales over the sum of quantity. Let's try to do some number formatting. Yes, it's working perfectly, and even for the grand total it is working perfectly. And you know why? Because we said that for the calculated fields, the pivot table will sum first and then do the calculation inserted in your calculated field. And in this case, it will do the summation and then it will divide, and this will work perfectly with the averages, but it will not work at all if you try to multiply two fields to get something like the total sales. In the second part of this video, we are going to look at the calculated items, and we have a similar data set, but it's a little bit different. If we look at the filter here, we have the sales report for 2 years, 17 and 18, and we have categories, products, sales quantity, and sales value. And what we want to do now is to calculate the variance between 2018 and 2017, and this will be the absolute variance. So let's start building our pivot table. Any cell inside the range, Alt and V to open the dialog box. We'll select the existing worksheet. Let's take H7 and OK, meaningful name. Let's call this the variance. Let's build the report. I'll take the years to the columns. I'll take the categories and the rows. I'll put only the sales value, and you can see here the report built. Right click, number format. This is amount, currency, 0 decimal places. This grand total I don't need because I'm going to put instead here the variance between the 2 years. So I'm going to design ribbon, grand total, show for columns only, and then let's try to build the new calculated items. So I'm going to select 2017 or 18, no difference. Calculated items, it will open a similar dialog box. This one this time called insert calculated item in year. So this is particularly for year because I selected 2017, and as you can see here, this is the field list, and by default it selects the year field, and you can see the items inside this field also on the right hand side. We'll start with giving a name as usual. I'll call it variance, VAR. Tap to go to the formula box. I'm going to take 2018, double click, minus 2017, double click, and add, and OK. You can notice the pivot table, you have the variance here, and similar if you put some other things, like if you put the product name here, it will work perfectly. The calculation is correct. However, because we enforced the calculation across all the table, it will assume that there is some caps inside the accessories, which is not the case. Caps will be only on the clothes and the breaks will be only in the components. However, it perform the calculation across all the possible combinations. So you have to take out these zeros, and this is very easy. From the filter on the rows label, you go down here, select the product name from the drop down. This is the product name, and from the value filter, does not equal 0, and OK. It will take out all the zeros and you will find the report very good. Now we calculated the variance. Let's try to calculate some other things. I'll take out the products. Suppose that you want to do a summation for all these categories. Calculated items. I'm going to give a name like total category. Tap. This time I'm going to use the function sum like Excel, the normal Excel. Open parentheses, accessories double click, comma, bikes double click, comma, clothing double click, comma, components, close parentheses, and OK. A new category or a new item created called total category. But notice this, the grand total is doubled because here is the sum of all the categories and here is the sum of everything including the total. So I have to take out the grand total. So from design, grand totals off for rows and columns, and now this is working very good. Even if I take the product name like what I did before, it will work very good. Let's undo this. I will be only staying with the category 2017-18 and the variance. Let's do some complications and let's try to divide. I'll divide the variance over the base year 2017 to calculate the year over year. I'll do this here in this in a new pivot table. Let's select the entire pivot table, Control C to copy. I'll go to P7 and Control V, and let's go again to the pivot table, Analyze, Fields, Items and Sets, and let's select first 2018 for an example, and let's do a calculated items. It will open the same dialog box. It's insert calculated items in year, but this time I'll call it year over year %. And I want to select the variance that we already calculated, insert, and I will do it over the 2017, which is the base year, to calculate the year over year change, and OK. And as you can see here, it will create another year over year column. Don't worry, just we need to change the number formatting. So from home, I will choose from the number section % and 1 decimal places, and look at this. It seems like working perfectly, even for the total category. And one of the benefits of doing this total category is if we add back the grand total from design, grand total, and go to on for columns only, it will create this duplicated. But look at the formula. The formula here is the summation of all the percentages, and this is not correct at all, because you have to first do the summation and then to divide. You cannot divide and then do the summation. So this is working perfectly for the division if you are going to calculate the year over year change as we tried in this example. However, in some cases you need to reverse the order of this calculation, and that's why we created our own total, because working with our own total, with this will help us to change the order, and I'll let you see now in a minute. But before doing this, look at our calculating fields, look at here in the variance, and look at the formula bar up here. You can see here is your formula, but if you look in the grand total, you can't see anything. It's just a number, because this is the standard calculation coming from the pivot table, but this is what you calculate yourself. Look at the year over year. This is the variance over 2017. Look at the category, total category, and you can see here the exact formula that we wrote together. And look at here, this is the intersection between the two formulas. It's working with the year over year. The formula coming from year over year is prevailing here. But what if you want to enforce the reverse order, meaning that you start with the division and then you do the summation? This is easy. You can do it here. This is an option to do it for calculated items. If you go to the pivot table, Analyze, and go again to Fields, Items and Sets, and you select Solve Orders, it will give you a list of all the calculated items calculations, and it will allow you to use the move up and move down to change the order. For this case, let's take this formula, total category, and take it down the variance calculation and close, and you can see here it's now changed. And look, even inside the formula bar again, you will find the sum formula coming here, and this is exactly the sum of these 4 percentages, 8.5, which is wrong for this case. So I'm going to change it back, Fields, Items and Sets, Solve Order, and I'll take it up one step. So the first thing will happen here, the variance 18 minus 17, then it will sum the total category, and then it will calculate the year over year, and this is working perfectly for this case. And in order to have this report correct, I need to take out the grand total. That's all for today. Hope that was useful for you. If you didn't subscribe yet, please use the button below and the bell icon to get notified with the future videos. Thank you very much for your time, and see you in next video, and bye.